To roll. Okay. How's that look? That looks all right. All right, we're ready to roll. Welcome to Baker's Green Acres. This is the Anyone Can Farm live chat. I'm Mark, your host. Today is Monday, the 16th of May, 2022. And it was a good day. It's a real good day. Just had a regular kind of work day around here. Let's see. I usually start off by telling you what I did so you can kind of know that we're the real thing. All right. The cleric's with us. Welcome. I got my fabric today, by the way. And Nance is with us too. Awesome. I was down at the cleric's and they had used a lot of the weed block fabric extensively, and I really liked the way it looked. And so I came home and I sent off for some from Grower Supply. Jill did, actually. And we got it yesterday, actually. It came on a Sunday. It didn't come to our house. It came to our neighbor's house. That wasn't that nice. But our neighbor very graciously brought it over yesterday afternoon, which I thought was nice of him. But I didn't get a chance to put it in today. We had a pig, a 345-pound pig that we started the process on last Friday after we got done with chickens, and it wound up in the cooler. And, the cooler was on all weekend. And so this morning it was like high time to get it out of there. It's nice and set up. And so I went right to it first thing. And by, let's see, I think we ate lunch at 2, but it was almost completely done. It was almost all cut up and packed. And Jill had to go back after and do a little bit of grinding, Jill and Frank. And then we had a ram lamb to process too, to start the process on. So we got him knocked down and skinned and gutted. And actually Jim did that for me. And while he was doing that, I went on to other things. Oh, I think first thing I had to do this morning was replace the extension cord that goes out to the pool because the filter wouldn't come on. So I had to do that. And I had to actually make one. I didn't have one that would reach. So I had to make a new one. But got that done. And then the ground fault plug on there failed shortly after that. So I had to cut that off and put a plug on. But it's done. It's all working now. So we're in good shape. Pool's nice and clean. It's full. It's a little cold to swim today. All right, Keith's with us. Beth is saying, woohoo, couldn't garden our second plot without it. Hope it works well. Yeah, about the only thing that's really growing right now is quackgrass. It's really going. It's really going. And after I got freed up with that, I went and I'm working on actually getting that installed. So on the south side of our garden, I put in a chunk of fence. Got that all done, and now I got to smooth it out so I can get that stuff put down, and then I'll get the asparagus in there. I'll get the strawberries put in, and I'm really wanting to get that done. I'd like to have some permanent crops out there that would work for us. But then I had a phone call, and then friends stopped by to get some stuff, and so I came in the house pretty much, had something to eat, and here I am. So that's good. But it was kind of a nice day. It's a little on the chilly side, actually. A couple things. Tribe Day is going to be on the 9th of July, 2022, and that's really shaping up to be something. Just for your information, we are working on the campground as quickly as we can. And I'm going to have probably about 10 spots over there for people to camp. We're putting up a temporary, no, we're putting up a permanent roof lean-to off of the building that's over there. And I've got the materials to build a lot of picnic tables. I'm not sure how many. I got a pretty good size load of 2x6s, and we're going to be working on that, I think, Thursday and Friday this week. We had made plans to go down to see my son Sam, but that got changed. So we are going to be around this weekend. We're actually going to be here Friday and Saturday. We have chicken butchering on Friday. Not much, though. Not much. Only about 30 at this point. So it's kind of interesting to see the way that goes. When we do really well with something, then the Amish decide that they're going to butcher chickens too. And so we bumped our price to $4.75 per bird. Which I know it's a lot, but everything is more expensive now. Electricity and propane and bags and everything is just more expensive. We have to do it, or we're just doing it to not make money. And so now the Amish are going to probably do it for $4, and they think that's pretty good. That's pretty fat. So now a lot of our customers are going to go run into the Amish. Happens all the time. And so I've just thought, well, we'll open the shop up to do other things. One of the things I don't like about butchering out of season is the amount of energy that we have to spend on HVAC, on heating, cooling, but on cooling especially. But if people will pay what we need to make it worth our while, then we'll do it. That's just the way it is. So I wanted to talk about grazing tonight. When I first moved here, there was a man that he's still over there, but I don't see him anymore. And as soon as I came here, he was like here all the time. Hey, can I borrow your tractor? Hey, can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? He was just here all the time. Hey, would you go over my house and fix this fence for me? And I thought, well, maybe that's the way it is around here. But then people told me, beware of Dutchmen bearing gifts. And so anyway, but one time I had said to him, so about when do we start grazing cattle here? And he said, May 16th. And I thought, wow, May 16th. Okay. Not May 15th, May 16th. And he had one day. And so another neighbor was over one time, and I mentioned it to him that Craig told me that we would start grazing May 16th. I said, do you start on 16th? He says, sometimes the 14th, and once in a while the 17th. And he was being sarcastic. So I got the message that saying you're going to start on the 16th is kind of, it depends on what's going on at the time. So I always see this as May 16th as National Start Grazing Your Cattle Day. And I didn't today. I didn't. And I probably won't tomorrow because I'm going to let the grass get nice and high before I turn them out, because they've got pretty well full feeders. I just dropped them bales yesterday. So I probably won't until the beginning of June. I want to let the grass really get a jump. I've grazing in the past. I've made it my business to see how much grazing I could do, right? So how little hay cutting I could do. And all right, I did that. But now I'm not too geeked about that. I really like grazing. And if you don't know what grazing is, it's a pretty deep subject, and that's why I want to start talking about it tonight, because this is the season, and it is a tremendous technology. We just kind of think, oh, cows out on pasture, nothing, no big deal. But there can be a lot more to it, and you can get a much bigger advantage if you manage it correctly. So let's say that I've got an acre field, and I'm going to go to the whiteboard tonight because it's going to take a little bit of splaining, and I do better when I can explain stuff. But I'll just suffice it to say that the system that we have here is kind of complex, but it wasn't designed that way in one day. We made a corridor from the back of the barn out, and it opens up into kind of a maze of gates that you can open and close, and different pastures and things like that. And I don't need to really draw all that. I just want to be able to explain sort of the principle of the type of grazing that we do. No matter how the cows get here, let's say I've got a field, and it could be 10 acres by 5 acres. Let's just say for fun, and let's say that I've got a way that they can get in right here. All right, let's say that goes to my barn, and that's how they can get in. All right. If I let them go in here on May 16th, and this is a hay field. Generally, hay fields are going to have multi-species in them. It's not going to be like you see these beautiful alfalfa fields that some of the really nice big farms have, and it's nothing but alfalfa. Hay fields aren't usually like that, even though alfalfa is a hay. A pasture mix of grasses is going to be, about 5 different kinds. There's alfalfa in there, there's timothy, there's orchard grass, there's bird's foot trefoil. Let's see what else. And clover. Okay, so those 5 are on this pasture, and a lot of my pasture is like that. And if I cut it, if I let it get high, and then I cut it and let it dry a little bit, like a day, and then the next day rake it into rows, windrows they call them, and then I bale that up. That's hay. But if it's just out there, it's grass. If it's out there growing, it's grass. So the thought process is, well, do I spend the time, which is my most valuable commodity, the diesel fuel, the wear and tear on the tractor, the equipment that you have to have a means of cutting and conditioning the grass. You've got to have a rake to rake it up. You've got to have a baler to put it into bales, whether it's round bales or square bales or big square bales. Then you have to have a way to get it someplace where you can store it inside. Because if you leave those bales out there, they'll just get waterlogged with rain and snow, and they won't be any good to you. Plus, they kill a big spot where they're sitting. So you only want to leave them out there a day or two. You want to get them in before they get rained on. If you can. If you don't make it and they get a little rain on them, that's life, and it's not like it's going to totally ruin them, but it's going to ruin a percentage of the hay on the outside, and you want to avoid that if you can. Is it smarter to do that, or is it smarter to let the cows go out to the field? They don't need a hay bind. They have their teeth. They'll just go out there and bite it off, chew it up, and swallow it. You don't need a baler. You don't need a tractor. You don't need any way of bringing it in. And another thing that you don't need to do then is you don't need to deal with the manure, right? Because they're out there on the field, and they're just, as they're eating, they're manuring. And cows are different than other animals, where when they've manured, they don't like to eat anywhere close to the manure. they stay away from it. So that's kind of good. So you don't have a worm problem with them or a parasite problem like you would with, say, goats and sheep. Um, so you got to kind of weigh it out. Do we want to cut no hay here? That'd be kind of hard for us to do because we have a pretty decent winter here from about December 1st. That's really when you got to figure. So we have December, January, February, March, April, May. So I got 6 months that I have to be feeding hay. I can be feeding hay. Like you guys know, I've stayed out the entire month of December. I've kept the cows out on the fields because there's still grass out there. There's still grass. It's dormant, but there's a lot of it, and they eat it. And then I bring them up to the barnyard and then start putting bales out for them. So I got to have 6 months worth of bales. And so, you have to figure out what you're going to need based on what your cows usually eat. So doesn't matter. So, I guess that I could be feeding bales all summer long. I could do that. And then I'd be cutting hay and bringing it to the cows. I'd have to cut more hay. Or I can just make a first cutting, store all that. If I manage it properly, there's enough there to get me through the 6 months that I need to feed the cows in the wintertime. And the 6 months that is in opposition to the 6 months where I need to feed, I can graze them. So to me, that sounds like about the best of both worlds. I really don't think that I want to keep the cows out long like I did into like January. I don't think I want to do that anymore. They lost weight. I knocked down one of the steers and he did not have the fat in him that he should have. So that was kind of a waste. We went the whole summer and he put on a lot of fat. And then because I chose to let him graze off of grass that really wasn't that good, he burned up a lot of his fat. And so when I did knock him down, the steaks and the roast and stuff weren't going to be up to speed. And so I had to disappoint a customer and tell him that I'm not really going to have the quality here that we thought we were going to. So anyway, but it was a friend of mine. So, all right. So when I do choose to put cows out here, let's say that this pasture is barbed wire, let's say. BW, barbed wire, all the way around. And maybe I electrify some of it, like maybe the top rung and the bottom rung. So let's say I got 4 strands and 2 of them are electric. That is going to keep the cows in. And I put the cows out here, and let's talk the first scenario. I put out, let's say 10 cows, and I just let them have the entire what did I say that was? Let's just say it was 10 acres. I let them have the whole 10 acres. And what will the cows do? What will the cows do? And is this the right way? So I got 5 different species of grass out there. They are going to go to whatever they like the best. So they really like alfalfa. They would just cruise this field with the eyeballs going, looking for alfalfa. And when they find it, they'll bite it off as close to the ground as they can. And let's say we bring them back to the barn for water, and then the next day they go out, and what do? As soon as they start looking around, they're going to eat the stuff that they want the best. And so if the alfalfa has come back a little bit during the night, and let's say it's jumped up a little bit, about this high, they don't differentiate between it being 6 inches high and 1 inch high. they'll bite it off and swallow it. So once they take that second bite, whether it's that day or, the next day or even the next day after that, let's say it takes 3 days for it to jump back up. Once they take that second bite, we run the risk of destroying the plant. And you guys know an alfalfa plant can have, a mature one can have a root on it that's like this, and it can go down 10 feet. I've seen them with roots on them like this, actually. And I don't know how deep they go, but I've heard that they can go 10 feet. And we really don't want to kill that plant, because that plant brings up a lot of nutrients from down deep. So in order to prevent that from happening, we'll put out a temporary fence like this. Right? So the cows are right in here. And we'll let them stay in there for a day or two. So when we see that everything has been taken down to a reasonable level, and I'm talking if it was up a foot or 16 inches, let's say that they take it down, they take 8 inches off. Let's say it's 16, they take half of it off. There's still a material out there. You don't leave them on it until they've just totally that material, that graze out there. You want that to be able to bounce back. So then what you do on day 2, you're going to have that you put out here. So when they come out into the field, our first fence is not there, or a portion of it is not there. Maybe we just kind of reel it up a little bit and leave it about like this. These are temporary fences. I'm going to show you what those look like in a minute. And this is where you come in. The cows come out. What they do is they start looking around, but then they see, oh, we got a whole another piece of it that we can get in. And then you come behind them and you shut this off. You shut that off. So they only have this. You do not want them wandering back onto here and taking that second bite. Right? Now, in a case like this, if it was configured like this, it actually is kind of tricky, because you might want to do something like this. And you would turn that fence so it came to here, because they have to have a corridor to get out there. Right? So you might just do that. I have, when the cows are in, they're up at the barn, and in my case, they come up to the barn to get water. I don't put water out there for them. And you don't really want to do that, because then you're moving the water trough every day. And if you get familiar with animals and watering, you really don't want to do that, because if they get out there and they find out that the trough has no water in it, which you can't move it if it's full, and they find out that there's no water in it, they'll knock it over and they'll get upset. And then as soon as you start putting water back in it, every cow out there is going to be pushing to the front of the line saying, me, 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 me. And it really gets annoying, because you got to stand there with the hose, and you have to have a stick to knock them back and keep them in line one at a time. But each one of them is going to stand there until they get as much as they can possibly get. They're not going to say, oh, I'll just take a little and go to the back of the line. No, they'll stand there until they get their whole 10 gallons. And so you're standing there, and let's say you've got 10 cows out there. You're going to be there a long time. So it's not a good option. If you have your water back here at the barn, when they're out getting something to eat, the way I do it is I have a 275 gallon tank at the barn, and I've got a shutoff valve on it that is automatic. It's got a float, and so as soon as the thing is full, it shuts it off. But as soon as they drink out of it, the float drops and it starts filling it. Real good setup. Real good setup. Saves you so much time. And when I walk out the back door, one of the first things I do is I look over there to see if there's water in the tank. It happens to be a an IBC tote that I cut off, cut it quite close to the top, and you can see through the side. So I know if there's water in it or not. If the cows are talking to me, I know something's up. So if I start hearing noises out there, they're either out of food or water. And usually with food, it's like I say, well, I know I fed them yesterday, but I better check the water. Okay, so the nomenclature here is going to be, this fence is going to be your lead fence, and this one is your drag fence. Okay, so let's say the cows finish up for the day, they go back in, then you could go out there and you could, well, it looks like this fence is going to have to stay. You could change this one to configure it like this and then put out another lead. So then this fence here could get picked up and used for the lead, right? And you repeat that process, whether it's a day or 2 or 3, whatever it is, because we're getting ready to come into what they call the spring flush, where everything just explodes. Like I can see the leaves on the maple tree out in front, and when those are fully out, that's when the spring flush just really comes on strong. It's we're getting a lot of rain every couple of nights, and we're having really warm temperatures, so the grasses just explode. And I'm waiting for that to happen before I let the cows out. I want them to have to work hard to keep up with the amount of grass that's out there. In my case, the corridor, just to get out there, it's so chock full of grass that they don't really make it far the first couple days. They really don't. All right. So you might be wondering, well, what is these fences consist of? All right. Well, if I have barb around the perimeter, that's a hard fence. That's a semi-permanent fence. That's not something they're going to move. If you were to try and use barbed wire for a temporary fence, if you work with that stuff, it can be a real bugger to work with, because it tends to want to go back to the roll, so it rolls up if you let go of the end of it. So it's not real good for making temporary fences. So they sell this stuff. This is poly wire. I've shown you this before, I know, but here we are. 'Tis the season. And this poly wire is polypropylene or polyvinyl chloride. Probably polyvinyl chloride, I would say PVC. Maybe. And it's got a filament in it. This one, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 3 filaments in this. And the filaments are stainless steel. 3, 1, 2, 3. Yep. Uneven number. Huh. Well, let's see if I can show you this. These are the filaments. Oh, yeah. Look at that. They're stainless steel. And then the poly is this yellow, black, and yellow. And that is just, there's no wire in that at all. Okay, so the electricity is carried through these filaments. And it appears to be like a stainless steel. It appears that way. I can't really tell. You know what? Actually, I lied to you. There's 4 of them. There's 4 filaments. Okay. And this stuff it's pretty tough. I don't know what the tensile strength on it, but it doesn't break easy. You can't break it just by pulling on it. If it gets tangled up in something, it'll break. Like if you accidentally tangle it around the wheel of the tractor and you're driving away on your merry way, and then you find out you wound up $50 worth of polywire on there, or in the rototiller. That's awful fun. But to handle this stuff, to put it out, it comes, well, it just comes in a roll, but then you can buy these dispensers, or I don't know, reels, I guess. And this one has a deal on it where you can it only goes one way, sort of like the reel on a fishing rod. And so you can pretty quickly walk it out, from here to here, as quickly as you can walk. I've seen people do it with four-wheelers, but it just really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because if you go too fast, the thing gets going too fast, and then you can turn it into a bird's nest. It just seems like a better thing to just drive out. If it's far away from the house and you got to drive out there, drive out, but then erect the fence, on foot. That's what makes sense for me. Usually I have everything out there, so if I have to go down to where I'm going to be fencing, putting the fence up, I can go on a motorcycle or a bicycle, or I can walk. Or I suppose I could ride a horse or a llama. Okay. So let's say that this is pretty wide. We're not going to be able to span this stuff from side to side. So we will put in these temporary fences. This is what they call a step-in post, because you can you can step on that into soft ground. It will stick in really good, right? And then it's got this insulator dip on here to keep the fence from grounding out against the fence post. Okay, and then the way that we're charging this fence is we have this nifty little clamp that goes on the end, and they make several different kinds of these, but you see it's got a plastic handle on it, so you can hook it on to a fence that's hot, and then you can walk this stuff out, and then you can hook this on. It's got a hook here, and you can actually hook it on to an existing fence out there. And the weight of it, it's pretty neat. The weight of it will tension the polywire. And the way it works, it's the shock that is transferred through this wire is sort of like a reminder to the cows. They're pretty easy going when it comes to where they're supposed to be. The beef cows, not so much. Or right now I have a bull, and I know I've preached against bulls a lot, but I got a good deal on this one. And he's a young bull, and he's really pretty nice. But you never turn your back on a bull. I mean, the nicest bull can kill you if he feels like it. So with these, just back up a little bit, with these posts, these step-in posts, you can walk out with an armload of these things, and I usually walk about 8 paces and step one in. 8 paces and step one in. And then you can just get the wire through here. You're going to have to imagine it. Just put the wire through here, and it goes through like that. And it's just resting on there, right? Which is kind of nice because you can tension it right across the field. So when the poly wire is up and a cow tests it, like touches it with their nose, and they'll walk out there, hey, what is that? And then they'll stretch that neck way, way out and start sniffing that wire. And as closer they get, all of a sudden a nice blue spark will go from the wire to their nose down to their hoofs and to ground. And I guess it's pretty traumatic because they do not like it. I mean, I don't like getting shocked either, but I think they really have a problem with it. I've gotten shocked before when I bumped up against the fence and my knees were on the ground and it was wet. And it was quite the experience, right? It was really quite the experience. And so I don't wish to do that. It's probably bad because it startled me, but I'm not one of these guys that can just grab a fence. I don't do it, but I don't go on roller coasters either. There's certain things I don't do. I don't need to. You no one can dare me into it. You'd have to bribe me with something pretty good, pretty darn good. So it's a reminder to the cows that, hey, this line, we don't go past this line. After they've all been shocked and that line is out there, it's going to take them a while before they can go through it. It really, really does. And usually it's only certain kind of cows that will go through it. And they'll just go through it. They'll be eating on the ground there. And then the back of their neck will go up against it and they don't feel anything. So they just keep going. And before you know it, they're on the other side of the fence. They don't just plow through it. But if the fence is hot and they bump up against that, whoa, they get a shock and they are reminded really quickly that they can't go through the fence. So I don't think that they smell it and say, oh, the fence isn't on, let's just walk through it. I don't think it goes like that. I just don't. But when the fence is turned off, a lot of times they don't test it. They just don't test it. So I believe it's sort of a psychological barrier. It's not, it's not exactly a physical, because most of the cows here, I don't think they've been shocked in years. I haven't been shocked in years. I'm not going to tomorrow, because I didn't get shocked yesterday, touch a fence. I'm not going to do it. But the younger cows, all right, we got this bull, and in the spring, it is problematic when the cows see the green on the other side of the fence. Even if it's really short, they want it. And what they do is they'll lean their heads over the fence, and they keep beating down the fence, and then before you know it, they're over it. We've got electric fence up on top of it, just on top of it. So when they try to get through it, it shocks them. And we haven't had any problem. But this year, we had one individual that was pushing it. He was just pushing it, and it was that new bull. So we put up a temporary fence on the inside of the permanent fence. And the idea was that, well, this will train him before he goes out with the girls, because he's going to be going out on pasture too. And within one day, he did not push on that fence. One day. And now it's a non-issue. He's not going to do it. So with him, it might be a little touchy, because he won't, the rest of the cows will go walking out once I let him out on pasture. And he might say, well, I'm not going out there. And then they'll be out there and he's back at the barn, and there'll be a lot of mooing, and because they like to stay together. And so we always, every year, there's a training period that you have to go through when you start your grazing. Yeah. Okay. So let's see, what else could we talk about? The intricacy of your field setup is only as, it's only limited by what you can think of. Mine started out pretty simple, but now I find out that, hey, this field, I don't need them on that field. I've got plenty of other places that I can graze them. I'm going to use that for just hay, because it makes nice hay, and I can cut real easy there. So every farm is different, and as you're operating it, you'll figure out that either I want to do this, I don't want to do this, and so your plan will slightly change. Let's see. Then there's, okay, let's say I cut hay off of a field this year, and then I want to let it rest. Maybe I'll lime it, and then I just want to let it rest. When you have your cattle go out there and they're eating, they're doing the self-harvest, they're massaging the ground as they walk around. And it's part of the system. And if you let it rest for a year, or maybe you don't let them graze it for a year and you just cut it, you can get some nice results doing that. Just not overdoing the grazing on a field. I had a couple fields last year that just didn't really do well, and I think I let the cows on it just a little too much. That could be. That could be. I'm not sure about that. I think maybe I just need lime. All right. Uh, so let's see. Oh, and then charging a fence. In this case, where I am, I've got my fence charger is at the barn, but it runs all the way out, all the way to the back of the property. And some people have a problem with that. Like if that fence were to get hit, they say that the electricity, the lightning can follow it back to the barn. Maybe. I guess maybe I should heed that. But on the fencers that I have, it says keep them inside. So I don't know. I use three types of fencers here. I use solar, battery powered, and then plug-in. Okay. I don't really have a favorite. They all have their downside. They all have their upside. If you're in a place where you can plug in, those things pack a wallop and they're pretty dependable. When you have a power outage, unless you have a power outage for days and days, you really don't have much to worry about. The solar ones, the one that I have right now, it's new. I only installed it at the end of the season last year, and it's charging up everything in the pig pasture, the grow area, and it's really good, really good. Right? They stay away from it, and I've had, 20 feet of it buried under mud, and it still works. Don't know how they figure that out, but it still works. And it's solar, right? So there's no wires needed to be out there. You don't have to lug batteries out and bring them back. And then battery, I have two of those, and they're kind of backups. So they take a 12-volt battery, it's just a car battery. So what I do is I have a battery station in the maintenance shop, and I have old batteries there that are not really good enough for a car, but I can use them for fences. So we just leave them there and leave the trickle charger on them. And so if I ever need a battery for a battery fencer, I know right where it is. And I've got several of them there. So, all right. So that's what I use. Yeah, they all have their upside. They all have their downside. Nice thing about the car battery one, it's like car batteries are cheap. You can get them from the junkyard. They don't have to be a full speed battery. They don't have to have a lot of cranking amps or anything. They can be kind of beat actually, and they'll still make a fence charger go. The way a fence charger works, on the old ones, there was a capacitor in there that would get loaded up, and then as soon as there was a ground provided, it would jump that gap and go to ground. The ones now, they have some pretty intense circuitry in them, and I'm not exactly sure how they do it because they didn't check with me first, but how they're able to make a fencer continue to work through all that mud that gets in, and it's still working good. Actually, it works so good that the pigs don't go within a couple feet of the mud. So I'm sure that there's a little bit of vibration there too. All right. Well, that's what I know about grazing. It's a tremendous advantage if you can really make it work for you. What we're doing is, let's say we let them have this field, and then the next time we get back on this field is 10 days later. this field's going to be rejuvenated right back to where it was. So if you can get what you're working for is the most amount of cow days that you can get. And that a cow day is one cow grazing for an entire day for however long they're going to be out there. With my cows, we encourage them to come back up to the barn and get water. So usually they come up to the barn. Sometimes they'll crash out at the barn for the night, and then they'll be down grazing again first thing in the morning. But if we can get cow days all summer long without spending any money on hay, it puts us, way ahead of the game. If I had to feed them 12 months a year with hay that I had to purchase from somebody else, that would be tough. That would be tough. Now, I'm not saying some of you will have to do that because you don't have big places or you don't have hay ground on your places. It's still better than not doing it at all. If you have to buy hay, let's say you get two steers and you have to buy them a round bale a month. All right, let's say. So you're gonna be into it 12 or 15 round bales for two steers. You're gonna have to keep them 2 years, but you're gonna get some nice product out of it. So I never said it was cheap. It's a whole lot cheaper for me because I can graze for 6 months, half as much. And the guy that's doing the haying here is me, so I don't have to pay him and just abuse him. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? I'll pay myself. No, I won't pay myself. That's really dumb. I listened to a guy this weekend. Hey, I'm going to recommend you guys. I'm going to make a recommendation. If you go to YouTube, there was a couple things that I heard this weekend that I really liked. Luann sent me, let's see, Penny Kelly. Yeah, I'll find it exactly. I'll find it. Okay. This is what it looks like. That's the story. And you can see it's May 15th, 2020. Look-see by Penny Kelly. You got that? I recommend you listen to it. She does nothing more than kind of looks behind and looks at what's going on right now and kind of projects out what's going to be happening. Plus, she does the tarot reading card thing, and she's a mystic too, so she woo. But there was a couple things in there that she said that I really liked, and one of them was that for those of you who can make something, design something, provide something, in the way of services, grow something, and you're not afraid of a little bit of risk, now is your time. And I think that's accurate. I really do. I think now is your time. With everything that they say is going to happen, I think you put yourself in the driver's seat if you can learn to do these things, grow food, make things, fix things, grow things, the whole homesteading lifestyle. So I really liked the message that she gave there. It was positive. But when that was over, a guy came on my autoplay. I'm going to have to find this guy. Okay, go to history. This might be interesting. Found him. Okay.
After saving with customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual, I customize everything.
I got to live through a commercial here. Stand by.
To achieve in your life financially. And then you have to go out and figure.
Okay. Well, the guy doing the interview is a guy by the name of Lewis Howes, Howes. And he had this guy on. Wow, this is. Okay. Okay. Biggest lies you've been told about money that keep you poor. Now, this just came on. I might not have listened to this, the guy with the turban on and all that stuff. I might have just, disregarded him. But he just came on. I had my earbuds in and I was working on something. He was talking about money. And he was talking about how we have been kind of fooled into using money incorrectly. And that there is a way to correctly use money. And a lot of his messaging is consistent with what we talk about, or what I talk about. And he's not a farmer, but he talks about investing. If you make a week's pay, and instead of taking a salary out, you take that money and you invest it back into the operation. Now, some of you may be at the point where you still have your day job and you're just starting to build your homestead. You're going to have to invest money in that homestead. And you'd be thinking like, wow, I don't have time to do anything anymore because I got to spend all my money on this dumb homestead. You're putting money into something that is an asset. So your money is still there. And really, money is a concept, because the dollars we get, they're just paper, right? They're fiat. But if you take those dollars and you turn them into something that's providing you a return, then you're using them correctly. If you save them, like all these money that you make $200 extra a week, and you put it in a bottle and bury it in your backyard. The devaluation of that money it's continual, right? So, but if you took that money and you invested it in a dwelling, let's say a home, and then rented the dwelling out for, whatever, you'd have to make the payment on it, of course, but your money ahead, and then you're paying into something that eventually you will have it paid off, and then you get the rent check, and then let's say you're getting $1,000 a month for a house that you maybe bought cheap and fixed up. Makes a lot of sense. The guy made a lot of sense. So I listened to it twice. I thought it was excellent, and it made me start to think about investing in this farm, and when we do spend money on the farm, am I thinking that, well, that investment that I just made is going to pay me dividends? That's going to, it's going to go in my asset column. I don't always. A lot of time it's like, oh, the freaking well is, I got to do this and I got to get that fixed. So we have, so you can take a shower tonight, and I'm not thinking that, well, this is a maintenance cost and this has to be done. But a lot of what he said, I really thought it was good. I thought it was a good presentation. You should listen to it if you get a chance. Megan Them's with us. Megan and Them. How you doing, Megan? Welcome. Where are you from? You're the only new person tonight that I've seen so far. Yeah, small crowd tonight, Monday. Yeah, where are you from, Megan? It'd be kind of nice to know where you're from, and how you found us. So that's it. That's grazing. That's coming up. Vindicti's with us. Who else is with us? Got a pretty good sized crowd. Howard City met you at the Declarics. Oh, okay. All right. That's right, Megan. Yep. We did meet. That was a good networking exercise, wasn't it? That was a lot of fun. I had a good time there. Okay. Let's finish it up for tonight. I am tired, so I want to go and take my shoes off and get that shower I've been dreaming about since last fall. It is springtime. I get a shower whether I need it or not. And then I'm off to Betty Bye. I want to get some sleep tonight. All right. Appreciate everybody coming by. We are going to meet again tomorrow night. Wednesday, there will be no meeting. There will be no live chat. We are going to try and fit some interviews in. I've got an interview form, right? And it's going to be available on Baker's Green Acres. So, I want to tell you about this. So let's say that you would like to be interviewed with us, and you go to that bakersgreenacres.com and you find that form, fill it out, and then we decide whether or not you're worth interviewing. And if you're doing something interesting, or even if it's not interesting to me, it'd be interesting to somebody, and we can get an interview going. Because I've said for a long time, I think Tuesday night should be our interview night. We just have somebody new on every Tuesday and let them talk like we did with Bards. I thought that was fun. I thought it was informative too. But let us know what you think. And if you'd like to be interviewed for your homestead, get a little notoriety, by all means, fill one out and stand by for a refusal. Hope we don't hurt your feelings, though. All right. I'm going to get going. Good night. Remember, anyone can farm.